Customer Centric Selling: How Changing the Conversation Leads to Lasting Success. Written by Michael T. Bosworth and John R. Holland. Every salesperson knows the feeling. You have exactly what the buyer needs, but conversations keep ending the same way. Polite dismissals, endless follow-ups, deals that slowly die. You might think it's just bad luck or tough prospects, but these failures follow a predictable pattern, and understanding that pattern will change your approach. In this summary, you'll learn how to not only understand, but break the pattern completely. You'll see how to structure your conversations to help buyers discover their own reasons for making a decision, empowering them to become champions for your offering. By the end, you'll have a clear blueprint for building trust, qualifying opportunities with precision, and creating a sales cycle that feels less like a battle of wills and more like a well-managed collaborative project. Number 1. The misalignment. Imagine a salesperson walking into a senior executive's office after weeks of product training, feeling prepared. They open their laptop, display a polished presentation, and explain their product's architecture, integration capabilities, and scalable platform. Within minutes, the executive's attention drifts. The meeting ends with the executive saying something like, "You should talk to our technical team about this." What feels like progress actually marks the start of a slow path to a lost deal. So why does this keep happening? The answer's simple. It all comes down to how the story's told. The salesperson describes their offering as a noun, a static thing with attributes and specifications. Their training focuses on the product's internal workings like processing speed, data capacity, and technical specifications. The company assumes buyers who understand what the product is will figure out why they need it. And all this creates what's called the Pinocchio effect. Marketing materials claim it will lower costs or it will improve profitability, as if the product itself drives success. But high-level decision makers think in verbs, not nouns. Their world revolves around action and outcomes, reducing inventory, accelerating time to market, improving forecast accuracy. They lack the time or technical expertise to translate abstract features into concrete business results. When you mention an overhead camshaft, the executive wonders how that helps them. Feature-focused language creates disconnect because it makes the buyer do all the mental work of connecting product to problem. This disconnect brings swift, predictable consequences. You get delegated to people you sound like. Talk like a technical user, get sent to technical users. Speak features and functions, get passed to departments who care about those things. Progress? No, you've left the room where decisions happen and budgets exist. You now present to people who can reject but can't approve. Sales cycles stretch, control evaporates, and success becomes unlikely. Breaking this cycle requires you stop selling the product itself and focus on what decision makers actually care about, their goals. Senior executives measure success through business metrics, not technical specifications. They need partners who speak their language from the first moment. Think back to your last sales presentation. Did you lead with features or with outcomes? Did you talk about what you offer or what your buyer could achieve? That difference decides whether you stay in the room with decision makers or get pulled into technical limbo. In the sections ahead, you'll learn how to position yourself as someone who belongs in those top-level conversations. Someone who knows that products serve purposes, and it's those purposes that truly drive purchases. Number 2. A sale begins. If leading with your product guarantees you'll be shown the door, what's the alternative? How do you earn the right to stay with the person who signs the checks? The key is to begin with a fundamental shift in your entire purpose. Move away from selling toward diagnosing. This new approach builds on one principle that changes everything. No goal means no prospect. A true sales cycle doesn't start when you make a call or send an email. It begins only when a buyer shares a specific, measurable business objective you can help them achieve. Until that happens, you're simply having a conversation. People open up about where they want to go, not what's going wrong. A leader will tell you they're aiming to double growth before confessing their team's struggling to hit targets. Goals feel safe and forward-looking. They invite collaboration instead of defense. To uncover the goal, adopt the mindset of a diagnostician. Think of yourself as a specialist called in to consult on a complex case. When you visit a skilled physician, they don't greet you with a pre-written prescription. They ask intelligent, probing questions about your symptoms, history, and lifestyle. With each relevant question, your confidence in their expertise grows. By the time they complete their diagnosis, you trust their prescription because you were an active participant in reaching it. This is precisely the dynamic you need to create with buyers. And that means patiently and thoroughly diagnosing their situation before suggesting any remedy. By asking framing questions like, "How do you forecast today?" you open up a safe, collaborative space for buyers to describe their world, challenges, and processes in their own words. Remember how executives think in verbs while salespeople speak in nouns? This diagnostic approach bridges that gap completely, leading to a powerful outcome. Your buyers create and own the solution. So, accept that you can never truly call your offering a solution. That label belongs to the buyer. Your job isn't to present a finished solution. It's guiding the buyer to discover one themselves. People rarely buy because you convince them. They buy because they convince themselves. The art is in guiding that discovery, helping them link the problems they've shared to the strengths you bring. When the light bulb moment hits, "So if we had this capability, we could achieve our goal," the message stops being yours. It's now their insight, their solution, their story. Now the buyer owns your solution. They'll champion it, defend it, and find the budget to make it happen. The sale isn't a hard close anymore. It's the natural next step in a process they feel in control of. You've shifted from vendor to partner, from salesperson to trusted advisor. The decision maker will keep you in the room because you belong there, helping them solve real problems on their terms. Number 3. The tool for diagnosis. Becoming a diagnostician sounds powerful, but just deciding to ask more questions isn't enough. The trick is asking the right ones, in the right order, to uncover what really matters. Leave that to intuition, and every rep ends up improvising. The company message turns into a game of chance. To change that, you need a conversation blueprint, something that keeps the seller focused and the buyer engaged. That's where the Solution Development Prompter, or SDP, comes in. An SDP forms the core of sales-ready messaging, a way for an entire organization to agree on how to talk about what its offerings do for customers. Think of it as a roadmap for conversation, moving beyond generic pitches to facilitate highly specific, relevant, and valuable dialogue. What makes an SDP so effective is its precision. Every prompter is designed for one clear type of conversation. You start by defining your audience, say, a CFO at a software company, and the goal they're chasing, like better forecast accuracy. That tight focus means you open strong and stay relevant. No detours into problems they don't have or features they don't need. Once you have a target, the SDP builds around two symmetrical halves that work together. The right side is all about the solution. Here, you turn product features into tangible usage scenarios using a simple formula called EQPA: event, question, player, and action. It reframes a capability as a question. When a specific business event happens, would it help if a certain person could take a specific action? So instead of saying remote database access, you might ask, when you're checking the status of large deals, would it help if you could open your laptop anywhere, anytime, and instantly review progress against key milestones? Suddenly, it's not a technical feature. It's a clear, actionable moment, and the buyer can picture themselves using it to solve a real problem. On the left side, you've got the diagnostic half. For every usage scenario, you craft diagnostic questions that dig into the buyer's reality and reveal what's keeping them from hitting their goals. These questions aren't random. They're nudges that highlight gaps your capabilities can fill. Remember the doctor analogy? That's exactly what's happening here. Diagnostic questions paired with scenarios let you assess the buyer's situation with precision and guide them to create their own picture of the solution. Every conversation becomes repeatable, yet tailored. With the SDP, you can confidently engage executives, speak their language, and focus on their real challenges. No more winging it. Instead, you're guiding, diagnosing, and winning. Number 4. The conversation in flow. Now that you have your SDP in place, diagnostic questions on the left, usage scenarios on the right, let's see it in action. The SDP provides structure, but the conversation still needs to feel effortless. Think of it like jazz. The chord progression is set, but the melody flows freely. Your buyer should never feel like they're being guided through a framework. Every conversation starts with a broad, open-ended question. If a buyer shares a goal like improving forecasting, you ask something like, "How do you forecast today?" This single question does all the heavy lifting. It sparks dialogue without threat, positions you as genuinely curious, and generates the raw material you'll shape throughout the conversation. As they walk you through their current process, you layer in the diagnostic questions from the left side of your SDP. Sequence matters. Start broad, then narrow. Ask about processes first, then move to pain points. Let each answer naturally lead to your next question, so the conversation feels organic. You might ask how they enforce forecasting metrics across offices. If they struggle to answer, probe deeper. How do you identify which opportunities are actually qualified? As they respond, patterns emerge. They admit managers have no consistent way to coach salespeople. A few high-stakes deals can destroy an entire quarter. Listen for what goes unsaid. When energy drops or frustration creeps into their voice, you've found something real. Reflect it back. So your entire quarter depends on just 2 or 3 deals. This reflection serves 2 purposes. It confirms you understand, and it makes the problem feel more urgent. Once you've explored their challenges, you hit the pivot point. Summarize everything they've shared. Get explicit agreement, asking, "Have I understood your situation correctly?" Only after they confirm do you transition to the right side of your SDP, those usage scenarios you crafted earlier. Present these as exploratory questions. For example, when reviewing a salesperson's pipeline, would it help if managers could access a secure, central database from anywhere? Follow with, "Would you like a system that tracks historical close rates and predicts future revenue?" Watch what happens. The buyer will start connecting the dots themselves. "That would solve our visibility problem," or "We could finally get consistency." They're now building the solution, using your capabilities as building blocks. Close by summarizing the capabilities they've agreed would help, using their words wherever possible. Then ask, "If you had these abilities, could you achieve your goal of accurately forecasting revenue?" When they say yes, the vision becomes theirs. In the next section, we'll cover how to capture this fragile agreement before it fades into the chaos of day-to-day business. Number 5. From vision to viability. The moment a buyer agrees the capabilities you've discussed will help them achieve their goal is when a sale truly becomes possible. But this shared vision is delicate. It exists only in the conversation you just had. Left undocumented, it'll fade away. So your next move is critical. Immediately take concrete steps to transform that intangible vision into a committed project. This requires shifting from conversationalist to project manager, starting with 2 key documents that formalize the buyer's interest and define a clear path forward. Your first action? Send a champion letter. This isn't your standard follow-up email filled with marketing fluff. It's a concise, powerful summary of the conversation you just had, written specifically for your buyer. It documents their stated goal, your shared understanding of their current situation, and the vision you co-created of how they could use your service to succeed. The letter concludes by proposing next logical steps, which include gaining access to other key players involved in the decision: financial approvers, implementers, and end users. When the buyer agrees to this letter's contents and grants you access to their colleagues, 2 things happen. You confirm you've understood correctly, and in doing so, you qualify them as a true champion, someone willing to advocate for the project when you're not in the room. Remember earlier when we talked about how buyers own the solutions they help create? The champion letter documents that ownership, making it concrete and shareable within their organization. Once your champion opens doors to other key players and you've had the chance to earn their buy-in, you move to the second deliverable, the sequence of events. This is where everything shifts from uncertainty to clarity. Instead of chasing updates, you collaborate with the buying committee to build a transparent project plan that details every step toward making a confident decision. Together, you outline milestones like technical reviews, site visits, legal checks, and final presentations. Every step has an owner, on your team or theirs, and a clear target date. By the end, you've both signed off on a shared roadmap for evaluation. This 2-step approach, confirming the vision with a champion letter, then defining the journey with a sequence of events, changes the sales dynamic completely. You're no longer guessing what's next or pushing for answers, and the buyer's no longer being sold to, They're a partner in a process they help design. You've made buying professional, transparent, and low risk. That builds trust and sets you apart from competitors still relying on pressure and persuasion. Now, the final purchase isn't a fight to win at quarter's end. It's the natural, inevitable conclusion to a project you and your champion built together. Conclusion. In this summary to Customer Centric Selling by Michael T. Bosworth and John R. Holland, you've learned that the most effective way to sell is to stop selling altogether and instead become an expert diagnostician of your customer's business goals. By shifting your focus from a product's features to how a customer can actually use it, you change the entire dynamic of the sales process, guiding conversations so buyers can discover their own reasons for making a purchase. This approach ensures the buyer owns the solution, making them a true champion for it within their organization. Okay, that's it for this summary. We hope you enjoyed it. If you like this summary, smash that like button and subscribe. See you soon. Thank you.